There is a quiet power that very few people ever discover. It is not found in being louder than others, proving yourself in every argument, or controlling every situation life places before you. It is found in something much simpler, yet far more difficult. The ability to remain undisturbed when the world around you becomes chaotic. The person who masters this ability carries a strength that cannot be taken away by criticism, rejection, failure, or the opinions of others. Most people spend their lives reacting. A single negative comment can ruin an entire day. One unexpected setback can erase weeks of confidence. They give strangers the authority to determine how they feel, how they think, and even how they see themselves. Without realizing it, they become prisoners of circumstances they cannot control. But what if your peace no longer depended on what happened outside of you? What if no insult, disappointment, or obstacle had the power to shake your inner foundation? To become unbothered does not mean becoming cold, emotionless, or disconnected from life. It means developing such clarity that you no longer waste your energy fighting every battle that appears before you. It means understanding that your attention is your most valuable resource, and every unnecessary reaction is a piece of your life that you can never reclaim. Real strength is choosing your response instead of allowing the world to choose it for you. The greatest battles are rarely fought with other people. They are fought within your own mind. Every moment you are tempted to react impulsively, to seek validation, or to let frustration control your actions, you stand at a crossroads. One path leads to emotional exhaustion. The other leads to freedom. Every calm decision you make is another step toward becoming someone who cannot easily be manipulated by fear, anger, or external pressure. Imagine waking up each morning without feeling the need to prove yourself to anyone. Imagine moving through life with a quiet confidence that remains steady, whether people applaud you or criticize you. This is not a gift reserved for a fortunate few. It is a discipline that can be cultivated through awareness, patience, and consistent practice. The more you train your mind, the less the outside world will control your inner world. Today, we are going to explore how to build that discipline. We will uncover why emotional reactions drain your strength, why silence often carries more power than endless explanations, and how developing inner stability can transform every area of your life. By the end of this message, you will understand that becoming unbothered is not about escaping life's challenges. It is about becoming the kind of person who remains grounded regardless of them. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that peace is something they find somewhere outside themselves. They imagine that if the right people entered their lives, if they earned enough money, if everyone respected them, or if every problem disappeared, then they would finally experience lasting calm. But life rarely unfolds according to our expectations. There will always be uncertainty, unexpected criticism, disappointment, and moments that challenge our patience. If your peace depends on circumstances that constantly change, then your peace will constantly disappear. This is why so many people spend years chasing stability while feeling restless inside. They have built their emotional well-being on foundations they cannot control. Your peace is not something that should be negotiated with the world. It is something that should be protected from the world. Every day, countless situations invite you to surrender it. A careless remark from someone you barely know. A message that never receives a reply. A coworker taking credit for your efforts. A stranger expressing an opinion that disagrees with yours. None of these events possess the power to destroy your peace on their own. They only gain that power when you allow them to enter your mind and occupy your attention for hours or even days. Most people underestimate the value of attention. They believe their greatest resource is time, but attention determines how time is experienced. Two people can live through the same 24 hours and finish the day completely differently. One spends the day consumed by resentment, replaying conversations, imagining arguments, worrying about what others think. The other focuses on meaningful work, nurturing relationships, learning, resting, and appreciating simple moments. They both receive the same amount of time, but one invested attention wisely, while the other allowed it to be stolen by things that added nothing to life. Every unnecessary reaction comes with a hidden cost. Anger demands energy. Envy demands energy. Constant comparison demands energy. Defending yourself against every opinion demands energy. Seeking approval demands energy. Most people do not realize how exhausted they become because they are constantly spending emotional energy on matters that never deserved their attention in the first place. By the end of the day, they wonder why they feel drained, even though nothing physically demanding happened. Their exhaustion comes from carrying emotional burdens that were never theirs to carry. Imagine your mind as a peaceful garden. Every thought you entertain is like planting a seed. Some seeds grow into patience, gratitude, wisdom, and confidence. Others grow into resentment, fear, insecurity, and anger. The garden does not choose what grows. It simply develops whatever is planted and repeatedly nurtured. Every time you revisit an insult, every time you replay someone's criticism, every time you imagine revenge or seek validation, you continue watering weeds that eventually overshadow everything beautiful within you. Protecting your peace means becoming intentional about what you allow to grow inside your own mind. Many people believe strength means always having the perfect response. They want the final word in every disagreement. They want everyone to know they were right. But genuine strength often looks surprisingly quiet. It knows that not every misunderstanding deserves clarification, not every accusation deserves a defense, not every invitation to conflict deserves participation. There are moments when walking away requires more courage than winning an argument. There are times when silence communicates greater confidence than endless explanations ever could. Consider how often people become trapped by the opinions of others. A compliment makes them feel worthy. A criticism makes them question themselves. Their emotional state changes depending on whoever spoke last. They unknowingly hand over authority for their happiness to people who may not even understand them. When you live this way, your inner world becomes unstable because it depends entirely on external voices. Today someone praises you. Tomorrow someone criticizes you. If both have equal influence over your identity, then you will never experience lasting peace because your sense of self constantly shifts with changing opinions. Learning to value your peace means recognizing that not every voice deserves a place in your mind. Some people speak from wisdom, others speak from pain. Some project their fears onto you because they have never learned to overcome them within themselves. If someone constantly carries bitterness, their words often reflect bitterness rather than truth. If someone constantly seeks conflict, they may invite you into battles that have nothing to do with you. Accepting every opinion as truth is like allowing every passerby to rearrange the furniture in your home. Eventually, you no longer recognize the place where you live. Protecting your peace also requires accepting that you cannot control how others behave. People will misunderstand your intentions. Some will judge you without knowing your story. Others may disappoint you despite their promises. You cannot prevent these experiences from happening. What you can decide is whether these experiences become temporary events or permanent residents within your thoughts. The event itself may last only a few minutes, but your attachment to it can continue for months if you refuse to let it go. There is wisdom in asking yourself one simple question whenever something disturbs you. Is this worth my peace? At first, the answer may not come easily because the mind naturally wants to defend itself. It wants justice, it wants recognition, it wants certainty. But over time, you begin to notice that many situations lose their importance when viewed through this question. The argument no longer feels necessary. The criticism no longer feels devastating. The inconvenience no longer seems unbearable. You begin choosing peace over proving yourself right. This does not mean ignoring every problem or pretending difficulties do not exist. Some situations require action. Some conversations must happen. Some boundaries must be established. Yet these actions become far more effective when they arise from calmness instead of emotional chaos. Decisions made in anger often create new problems. Decisions made from clarity usually solve existing ones. A peaceful mind sees possibilities that an agitated mind completely overlooks. Think about the people whose presence naturally makes others feel calm. They are rarely the loudest individuals in the room. They do not rush to impress everyone. They do not become emotionally unstable every time circumstances change. They carry themselves with quiet steadiness because they have learned that their inner state is more valuable than temporary victories. Their confidence does not depend on applause, and their peace does not disappear because someone disagrees with them. They understand that life will always present challenges, but they refuse to let every challenge determine who they become. Protecting your peace also means becoming selective about what you consume every day. Every conversation, every piece of news, every social media post, every relationship, and every habit leaves an impression on your mind. If you constantly surround yourself with negativity, comparison, outrage, and endless distraction, maintaining peace becomes increasingly difficult. Your environment influences your thoughts more than you may realize. Just as healthy food strengthens the body, healthy influences strengthen the mind. Choosing what enters your awareness is one of the most powerful forms of self-respect. There comes a moment in personal growth when you stop asking, "How can I make everyone understand me?" and begin asking, "How can I remain true to myself regardless of who understands me?" This shift changes everything. Instead of chasing approval, you begin building character. Instead of reacting to every opinion, you become anchored in your values. Instead of allowing every inconvenience to disturb your emotional balance, you recognize that your peace is too valuable to exchange for temporary satisfaction. You become less interested in controlling the world around you and more committed to mastering the world within you. Understanding that every choice to protect your peace is also a choice to protect your future, your relationships, your clarity, your purpose, and the quiet strength that allows you to move through life without being easily shaken by every storm that appears. One of the greatest differences between those who live with inner freedom and those who remain trapped by circumstances is not intelligence, talent, or opportunity. It is the ability to govern their own reactions. Every day, life presents situations that are completely outside your control. Someone may speak harshly to you. Plans may fall apart without warning. Opportunities may disappear. People may misunderstand your intentions despite your honesty. These moments are unavoidable. What separates one person from another is not what happens to them, but how they choose to respond. Your reaction is where your true character is revealed, and it is also where your future begins to take shape. Many people believe they are responding to life, but in reality they are simply reacting out of habit. A criticism immediately creates defensiveness. A delay produces frustration. An inconvenience creates anger. Praise creates excitement, while rejection creates despair. These emotional patterns become so automatic that people stop questioning them. They assume this is simply who they are. Yet every automatic reaction is a habit that has been practiced repeatedly. And like any habit, it can be changed through awareness and discipline. Imagine someone pressing a button and immediately controlling your emotions. They insult you and your mood changes. They ignore your message and your confidence weakens. They praise you and suddenly you feel valuable again. If another person can alter your emotional state so easily, then who is truly in control of your life? The answer is uncomfortable, because it reveals that many people have unknowingly surrendered authority over themselves. They allow external events to dictate internal experiences without ever pausing to question whether this is necessary. There is always a brief space between what happens to you and how you respond. For most people, this space is so small that it goes unnoticed. A thought appears, an emotion rises, and an action immediately follows. But this small space is where freedom lives. When you begin noticing it, you realize that you have more influence over your behavior than you once believed. Instead of reacting instantly, you become capable of observing your emotions before acting upon them. This single ability transforms the way you experience every challenge. Think about how often regret follows impulsive reactions. A sentence spoken in anger damages a relationship that took years to build. An emotional decision creates problems that remain long after the emotion has disappeared. A moment of impatience closes a door that patience could have kept open. These situations rarely occur because people intended harm. They occur because people allowed temporary emotions to become permanent actions. The emotion lasted only minutes, but the consequences lasted much longer. Emotions themselves are not enemies. They exist for a reason. Fear can warn you of danger. Sadness can reveal what truly matters to you. Anger can signal that a boundary has been crossed. The problem begins when emotions become leaders instead of messengers. They are meant to provide information, not direction. When anger becomes the decision maker, wisdom disappears. When fear controls your choices, growth becomes impossible. When insecurity determines your actions, your potential remains hidden beneath constant self-doubt. Mastering your reactions does not mean suppressing your emotions or pretending they do not exist. It means learning to experience them without becoming controlled by them. Imagine standing beside a flowing river instead of being swept away by its current. The water continues moving, but you remain grounded. Thoughts come and go, feelings rise and fall, yet you no longer identify yourself with every passing emotion. You recognize that emotions are temporary visitors, not permanent definitions of who you are. One of the most powerful habits you can develop is the practice of pausing. Before speaking, pause. Before sending a message written in frustration, pause. Before assuming someone else's intentions, pause. This pause may last only a few seconds, but within those seconds, clarity often replaces confusion. The first reaction usually comes from conditioning. The wiser response comes after reflection. Every pause creates an opportunity to choose your actions instead of repeating unconscious patterns. Many conflicts become much larger than they need to be because neither person chooses to pause. One emotional reaction meets another, and the situation quickly escalates. Words become harsher, assumptions multiply, pride replaces understanding. Soon, both people forget what the original disagreement was about because they have become focused only on winning. In reality, nobody truly wins when emotional reactions replace thoughtful communication. Relationships weaken, trust disappears, and unnecessary suffering follows. Self-control is often misunderstood as restriction, but it is actually a form of freedom. Consider a skilled musician. They practice countless hours mastering their instrument. From the outside, this discipline appears limiting, yet it gives them the freedom to create beautiful music effortlessly. The same principle applies to your mind. Every moment you practice patience instead of impulsiveness, every time you choose calm over chaos, you strengthen your ability to remain steady regardless of what life presents. What once required enormous effort gradually becomes your natural way of being. People frequently admire confidence without realizing where genuine confidence originates. It is not built by receiving endless compliments or avoiding failure. Real confidence develops when you repeatedly prove to yourself that you can remain composed during difficult moments. Every time you resist reacting impulsively, you strengthen trust in your own character. You begin believing not because life has become easier, but because you have become more capable of meeting life's challenges without losing yourself. Another important lesson is recognizing that not everything deserves your reaction. Some people seek attention through conflict. Others criticize because they themselves are hurting. Certain situations are temporary inconveniences that disappear quickly if left alone. Reacting to everything is like attempting to catch every leaf carried by the wind. You exhaust yourself chasing things that were never meant to remain in your hands. Wisdom often lies in choosing what deserves your attention and quietly allowing everything else to pass. Your reaction also influences those around you more than you realize. Calmness has a quiet strength that naturally affects the atmosphere of a room. When everyone else becomes anxious, one steady person creates stability. When others rush into panic, one thoughtful individual creates perspective. Leadership is not always expressed through speeches or authority. Sometimes leadership appears in the person who refuses to let fear, anger, or confusion dictate their behavior when everyone else has already surrendered to emotion. There will always be situations that test your patience. There will always be people who misunderstand you. There will always be unexpected obstacles that interrupt your plans. You cannot eliminate these experiences from your life, but you can transform how you meet them. Every challenge becomes an opportunity to strengthen the discipline of conscious response. Every difficult conversation becomes practice for remaining centered. Every disappointment becomes a chance to develop resilience rather than resentment. Many people spend years trying to control other people's behavior because they believe external control will create internal peace. They attempt to manage every opinion, every outcome, every relationship, and every circumstance. Eventually, they discover the impossible nature of this pursuit. The more they try controlling the outside world, the more anxious they become, because life refuses to obey their expectations. Real peace begins only when attention shifts inward toward mastering the one thing that has always been within reach, your own response. The quality of your life is shaped less by the events you encounter than by the meaning you assign to them. Two individuals may experience identical setbacks. One sees proof of failure and becomes discouraged. The other sees an opportunity to grow stronger and wiser. The event remains the same, but the reaction creates entirely different futures. This is why mastering your reactions is not merely about emotional control. It is about shaping your destiny through intentional choices made one moment at a time, recognizing that every calm response strengthens your character. Every thoughtful decision deepens your wisdom. Every patient action builds resilience. And every conscious pause brings you closer to becoming someone whose inner stability can no longer be shaken by the changing conditions of the outside world. One of the deepest sources of unnecessary suffering is the desire to control what was never ours to control. Many people spend years trying to shape the behavior of others, predict every outcome, and force life to unfold according to their expectations. They believe that if they could only manage every situation perfectly, they would finally experience peace. Yet the opposite often becomes true. The harder they grip, the more exhausted they become. They discover that life is constantly changing, people remain unpredictable, and certainty is always temporary. Instead of finding security, they find endless frustration because they are fighting against the very nature of existence. Consider how much of your daily stress comes from things beyond your influence. You worry about whether people appreciate your efforts. You replay conversations, wondering if you said the right words. You imagine future problems that have not happened. You become anxious over decisions made by strangers, the opinions of people who barely know you, and events unfolding in places you have never been. None of these concerns increase your ability to influence reality. They simply occupy your attention and quietly drain your energy. The mind becomes crowded with imagined battles while the present moment slips away unnoticed. The desire for control often disguises itself as responsibility. You convince yourself that constant worrying is a sign of caring. You believe that if you think about a problem long enough, you will eventually discover the perfect solution. But there is an important difference between thoughtful preparation and endless mental resistance. Preparation leads to action. Resistance leads to exhaustion. One helps you move forward. The other keeps you trapped in circles of overthinking, where the same thoughts repeat themselves without producing any real progress. Life has a way of reminding us that control is limited. Seasons change whether we welcome them or not. People grow in directions we never expected. Opportunities appear unexpectedly, and others disappear without explanation. There are moments when you can do everything correctly and still experience disappointment. There are times when you make mistakes, yet somehow discover opportunities hidden within them. This unpredictability is not a flaw in life. It is part of its design. The more quickly you accept this truth, the more peacefully you can move through whatever comes next. Acceptance is often misunderstood. Many people think accepting reality means becoming passive or giving up. They imagine it requires surrendering ambition or ignoring injustice. True acceptance is something entirely different. It means seeing reality clearly before deciding how to respond. It means refusing to waste energy arguing with facts that already exist. If it is raining, arguing with the sky changes nothing. You simply choose whether to carry an umbrella. In the same way, accepting a difficult situation allows you to respond intelligently instead of emotionally resisting what cannot be undone. There is tremendous freedom in recognizing the difference between influence and control. You can influence your actions, your words, your habits, and your mindset. You can influence the effort you bring to your work, the kindness you show to others, and the discipline you cultivate each day. But you cannot control how every person responds. You cannot force respect, guarantee success, or eliminate every obstacle from your path. When you confuse influence with control, disappointment becomes inevitable because your expectations extend beyond what any human being can achieve. Many relationships become strained because people attempt to change one another instead of understanding one another. One person believes the other should think differently, speak differently, or behave differently. Every disagreement becomes a project that must be fixed. Every difference becomes evidence that someone is wrong. Over time, frustration replaces compassion because expectations continue colliding with reality. Genuine connection begins only when you stop demanding that others become versions of themselves that exist only in your imagination. The same principle applies to your own past. There are people who carry events from years ago as though they happened yesterday. They replay mistakes repeatedly, searching for an opportunity to rewrite history. They criticize themselves for decisions made with knowledge they did not possess at the time. Yet no amount of regret changes yesterday. The past can offer lessons, but it cannot be edited. Holding on to it too tightly prevents you from fully living the life unfolding before you now. Imagine trying to row a boat while constantly looking backward. You may still move, but your direction becomes uncertain and your progress slows dramatically. Many people live this way emotionally. Their attention remains fixed on what should have happened instead of what can happen next. They remain attached to lost opportunities, broken relationships, or painful experiences, believing that holding on somehow protects them. In reality, attachment often prolongs the very suffering they hope to avoid. Letting go is not about forgetting or pretending difficult experiences never occurred. It is about releasing the expectation that life owes you a different past. Every experience, pleasant or painful, becomes part of your story. Some chapters teach joy, others teach resilience, some reveal love, others reveal strength you never knew you possessed. When you stop resisting what has already happened, You create space for wisdom to emerge from experiences that once brought only pain. Another powerful illusion is the belief that happiness exists somewhere in the future. People tell themselves they will finally relax after achieving the next goal, earning more money, receiving more recognition, or solving every problem. Yet, when one milestone is reached, another immediately appears. The finish line continues moving because the mind has developed the habit of postponing peace. Instead of appreciating the present, it constantly negotiates with the future. It whispers that fulfillment always exists one more achievement away. This habit quietly steals countless moments from life.